Hi everyone, this is Devesh Chawla. I'm the founder and CEO of Chatur Ideas. Happy to host this AMA along with the A community. So I look forward to your questions. Before that, let me give you a little brief about what exactly is Chatur Ideas all about. So we are basically a startup enabling platform where we do basically five different things. One is we mentor startups. So we have senior people from the industry, like the group CEO of BNP Paribas, co-founder of a Silicon Valley accelerator based out of USA. We have the country head of a well-known bank. We have the former CMO of Religare, and so on and so forth. So these guys not only provide the domain expertise, but also leverage the network so that the entrepreneurs can be at the right place and the right time. And I think that's very critical for every entrepreneur because getting domain expertise is one, but getting the right network is equally important for every entrepreneur to grow up. Second is we invest ourselves in companies as well as we raise funds as well. So we have investors based out of India and USA. The third thing is we do something called as an outsourced innovation, where we work with a lot of ultra HNIs and family offices, where they're running their own businesses, but they need some help in starting the new business, where they need a lot of our personal bandwidth, network expertise. And here we are very selective on whom we work with, because a lot of our personal time, energy, and network gets involved in. But when we take up such projects, we take A to Z of their entire business cycle. The fourth is we do marketing online and offline for any of our portfolio companies. And the fifth is we work with a lot of institutes. So there has been a company called as Nurture Talent Academy, which has trained close to 34,000 entrepreneurs across 450 colleges in the last 5 years across 125 plus cities in India. So we have acquired that company, and after acquiring that, today we work with over 600 odd institutes all over India and have close to 1,300 campus ambassadors. What we do here is, on one end, we basically run our training programs. So we have certification programs in collaboration with IIT Bombay. We have certification programs with collaboration to an accelerator based out of USA, and so on and so forth. We manage their entrepreneurship sales and innovation centers, and we also indulge a lot of corporates who want to enter into these institutes. We help them to reach out to them as well. So on one end, we work with a lot of mature companies and mature startups where they are running into the business, but they need help in guidance, in mentoring, handholding, and fundraising. And on the other end, we are developing the cult of entrepreneurship right from the student level. The reason why we're doing that is because today on the Global Innovation Index, we stand at the 57th number and we wish to be in the top five. And that can only happen if we create more and more entrepreneurs, more and more innovation from the grassroots level. So on one end, we are cultivating the spirit of entrepreneurship right at the root, grassroots level. And on the other end, we're working with a lot of mature companies and helping them in their fundraise, in their mentoring. So that's a little brief about Chatur Ideas. Some of the accolades that we've achieved till date, sharing that so that you understand where do we stand in the Indian ecosystem today. So we have been awarded as India's leading startup enabling platform at the BRICS International Conclave. Uh, we have been awarded as the top small companies of India. Tech in Asia has covered us amongst the top five rising startups. Personally, been awarded with the Mahatma Gandhi Samman Award, which is given to only 25 Indians all over the world. 2 weeks ago, been awarded as the Entrepreneur of the Year, uh, been awarded as the Youth Leadership by the Trade Commission of Canada, and so on and so forth. So that's a little brief about Chatur Ideas and what we've been doing in the ecosystem. I'm now open to any questions that you all have, and I would love to answer them. Something that's coming. Uh, okay, so someone is asking me that how do we start moving from the planning stage to the execution stage? So I think how do you begin from moving from the planning to the execution stages? Basically, first you narrow down on what's your problem point. What is that you want to work on? That's very important because many a time what happens is we first figure out the solution and then we start working towards the problem. Most of the entrepreneurs do that, and hence we see the success rate of entrepreneurs is only 5% in the 95% failed cases. The reason being is they are first focusing on creating a solution and then they move towards a problem, whereas it has to be the other way around. You first focus on a problem. How to figure out a problem? The problem has to be something that you have really worked towards, or there is a personal problem or a problem that you have experienced yourself and you feel people at large want to have a solution to that problem. To give you an example, if you guys are aware of Uber, right? So when Travis Kalanick was standing in the scorching sun waiting for a cab to come in, that time he realized that he was waiting for like 15, 20 odd minutes and he couldn't get a cab his way. He said, why don't I create something where I can actually know the driver details, know the cab details, know how much time it takes, how much fare it's going to be, and so on and so forth. And there was a personal problem that he experienced. People at large will be experiencing this problem and there needs to be a solution. And we know today how big Uber is, right? Similarly, if you guys have heard of Redbus, so the founder of Redbus had faced a similar problem during Diwali when he came up with this concept. And today we know that Redbus had been categorized among the top 10 startups of India, right? So most of the successful startups, if you see, have a problem or a pain point that they have experienced and they have been very passionate to solve that problem area because they know it's just not only their own problem, but people at large are experiencing it and hence they're able to achieve that. The first point is figure out the problem point for which you're passionate about. There has to be a reason that keeps you up every morning, every night, just running for your own venture. The other thing is you figure out a solution. After doing that, what's very important is to do an empathy study or market survey to actually figure out that are you doing the right thing or no. And that also comes in, for example, so there are two levels to this. The first level is a simpler one. The second one is very tough. The first level is basically just go and ask your clientele or a customer or a prospective customers that this is a product or the service that I am planning to launch and this is what I'm going to do. I need your feedback. So for instance, if you say that I have a product which can be, for example, a cell phone. You reach out to your prospective customers and tell them that this is my cell phone. It can make calls, it can send messages, it can click photos from the front camera and the rear camera. It can store data up to say 64 GB and so on and so forth. You go and ask them, would you want to have such a phone with you? A. B, would you want these features or you want me to add or delete some features from this? C, what is the pricing that you would want for it? Many a time what happens is we start comparing ourselves with the best players in the industry. And we say that, for example, an X phone is being sold for, say example, 80,000 bucks. Why can't I sell my new phone that I've thought of, which has almost all the similar features that this phone may have, for 70,000? I'm still selling it 10,000 cheaper, but people don't want to pay that price. People feel they are paying that 80,000 for that X phone because they feel there is a brand value attached to it and they're paying for the brand. You have just entered the market. You may have the similar features but not the brand value, and hence people don't want to pay you that kind of money. Your manufacturing cost and all your costs put together is, for example, 20,000. And you may say that, okay, I can sell it for 30,000, still keeping a very handsome margin. And people may be okay for it, right? That's what happens. You need to understand from your customers, understand you've just started. Don't feel anxious or feel bad that somebody else is commanding a premium. Why can't you? You need to reach that level first to command that kind of premium. So you reach out to your audience, you tell them that this is what is my product. I'll give you these features. You want any features more or less, you let me know. You make the product as per your clientele specifications, because then you understand you're in the right direction or no, and then get the pricing from them. So once you've got the product right, you have got the pricing right, you know that you have done a strong customer survey with, say for example, 1,000 customers, and you've collated the data and come out that, okay, these are the features that most of the people want, and this is what they don't want. Let me create such a phone. And the pricing, everyone has said it has to be in the range of 25 to 32,000. So I should create in that range, and then I start taking out to the market. So now you're sure what you want and what's the pricing. Why this is needed is because many a time we begin with a product because we feel this is the right price, right product, and after 6 to 9 months we realize that nobody is taking this product, and we take a back seat and we say that I think we have to pivot the model, to change something, it's not working right because we didn't do the market survey in the beginning. So if you do that, this should not be an issue. Point number 2. After doing the simpler task, the tougher task, why is it a tougher task is because very few people can actually do this. But if they do that, the chances of the product being successful really increases tremendously. And what's that second step is, you actually reach out to these customers and say, my product is going to take another 1 month to be launched in the market. In the meanwhile, can you just pay me a 10% advance? Now, why are you asking them a 10% advance? Now, there are three benefits of asking a 10% advance. One, you actually come to know that have they really given you a genuine feedback, or they've just given you feedback for the namesake? Because many a time people just don't want to give you a feedback because they feel that you're just taking too much of their time, and they just want to say it's a good product, just go ahead. And when you approach them after a month and say, do you want to buy this product? They're like, no, I don't want it right now. I don't have money, or I'm not interested in the product. I just said that time because I thought I should encourage you, and so on and so forth. But once a person has paid you 10%, the chance of that person pays you 10% just to let you go off is very less, right? So they would be really interested in your product, and that's the reason why they said, okay, take a 10% advance. The second thing is human psychology. So the pain of losing 10% is way too higher than the gain of gaining 90%. Let me help that with an example. Most of us use wallets, right? E-wallets, right? And in those e-wallets, we have cashbacks that keep coming in. So every time we transact, we get a cashback. Now, if you want to buy something which may be worth, say, $2,000, and we just have $50 as a cashback, we would use that wallet to do the transaction vis-a-vis to using internet banking or any other mode, because we want to use that $50, right? Now, once we have made that transaction, we get another, for example, $30 in our account as a cashback for doing that transaction. That again says that why do I leave that $30 aside, and why don't I do the next transaction again through this wallet? Now, for us, if you really see that $30, $50 is nothing. It's the cost of fuel is more expensive moving from one place to another for, say, a 20-minute commute, right? But still, when we have something with us, we just don't want to let it go off easily, right? That's human psychology. So the pain of losing the 10% is way too higher than gaining the 90%. So when you go back to that person, just because that person does not want to lose out on that, just 1 second. Just because that person does not want to lose out onto that 10%, they actually end up paying the remaining 90% as well. The third benefit that you get by doing something like this is you become a very good salesperson. As an entrepreneur, one is you need to be very humble, and the second thing, you need to be a very good salesperson. Now, and I feel a good entrepreneur is one who can actually sell ice to an Eskimo, who can sell a comb to a bald man, right? Now, you have become a very good salesperson because you're selling a product before it's even launched, and you're taking in 10% of the revenue of your product before it's launched. So that shows how good you are as a salesperson. So I think these are the benefits that you get by doing this empathy study. And also then you realize how you begin your business and you start entering the market, because now you're pretty sure in the right direction. You have got a market validation, and now you're out in the market. Let me see if there are any other questions. Yes. So someone asks me, what are the key ingredients of being a successful entrepreneur? I would love to listen from you guys if you have some points, what you feel is the key ingredients. But let me share my points here, what I feel, what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur. I think there are three things that's needed for anyone to be a successful entrepreneur. The first one being focus, the second one being discipline, and the third one being perseverance. And I would love to explain that with the help of an example. Have you guys ever done rabbit farming? If you have, you would have realized that, for instance, you're trying to catch a one day, you're about to catch, but there is another rabbit which comes close to your leg, and you feel, boss, let me leave this rabbit and catch this one. And the moment you turn your attention from that rabbit to the one that's closer to your leg, even that starts running away. Then you start running towards that rabbit, it enters the bush, and you're like, okay, there is someone who's just clinging to my another leg. You try to catch that one, but that also starts moving away. Now, what happens in this entire process is that there are n number of rabbits. For example, there's 7 rabbits, right? In the farm, you're trying to catch each one of them, and then you realize that you're getting none of them with a 45-minute kind of a effort. But if you just focus on one rabbit and you start running behind that rabbit to the level that you don't have a rabbit in a basket, you just keep pursuing it. So, for example, you're catching a rabbit, enters the bush, you go behind that rabbit in the bush. It comes out, you just run behind that. Let any rabbit come close to you, but you just focus on that. If you start doing that method, you will see in 15 minutes, all the 7 rabbits are in the basket. So that's how focus needs to be. That's how an entrepreneur needs to be highly focused to understand that he's in the right direction, and that would is the best way to be successful. The second thing that an entrepreneur needs to focus on, need to have in terms of discipline. What happens many a time is when you start your business, you're very frugal, right? You don't spend huge money. After you get funded, what happens? You start blowing money like crazy, right? You start behaving like a college kid who has just got his first salary. You start spending money extensively on things you're not needed. You start hiring uh, film personalities to endorse your product. You start hosting events at the best of the best properties in the country. You start having international trips in the name of team bonding. What happens in this? Your entire discipline for which an investor had put money into you, your frugal attitude to work has gone for a toss. You have started entering into a different league where you feel that you are now funded, you can just blow money and we'll wait till the next round comes in. This attitude leads to the downfall of a lot of companies. We all are aware that a lot of unicorns were actually shut down because of not having discipline in function, right? The next thing that is perseverance. So we all have heard of KFC, right? So KFC was started by Colonel Sanders. So he started at the age of 60, 65, and he had actually made more than 1009 attempts before he actually got his first order. Walt Disney, I think, did 313 attempts before what Walt Disney is today. In fact, initially people are very apprehensive, saying that we don't want Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse, our kids will get scared. It's horrifying. It's not good. But he had to actually keep trying and trying until he got success. Thomas Edison, right? He failed 10,000 times before what an electricity is to all of us today, right? So that's perseverance, and that's very important. But there's a caveat to it. So when you're being perseverant, just be sure in the right direction. Just don't keep pursuing your idea only because you think that you have created that idea. It's your thought, it's your baby. That should not be the mindset. You should be behind a business, you should be behind your venture only if you feel that you're in the right direction. You've done your empathy interview, that which I talked about, your empathy study, your market survey, and once you're pretty confident you're in the right place, it's just not getting the right client for you, the right customer. Till then, keep running, and keep trying unless you achieve success. So, if an entrepreneur has a focus, discipline, and perseverance, I think success is bound to follow. So, let me read some other questions that we have. Okay, so someone is asking, what do investors look at when they invest into companies or into startups? Uh, so, it's a myth that people feel that when investors put in money, they look at the idea. They, of course, look at the idea, but the weightage given to an idea is just 30%. 70% of the weightage goes to the entrepreneur. Because at the end of the day, the entrepreneur is one who will execute it. So today, if you have got a beautiful idea, but you don't have the capability to execute that idea, you will not have the investor putting in the money. But instead, you have an okayish idea, but you have the entire capability, the passion, the way to execute the idea, of all the plus points that is needed in executing that idea, the money is on the table. So what investors really focus on is the entrepreneur and his execution capability and the team that he has, the pedigree of the team, the credibility of the team, what has been their experience, how passionate are they towards this business, what they want to achieve, how they are going to go about it, what is the strategy, can they really execute that or no? Seeing all those things, the money comes on the table. Let me see if there are some other questions. Mm. Okay, so someone has asked me, what are the challenges faced specifically by young entrepreneurs and why do they need a strong startup ecosystem to succeed? Okay, so one of the basic problems that entrepreneurs face is guidance. So, today's a fad. Everyone wants to be an entrepreneur. Everybody wants to start something on their own because they're seeing a lot of success stories. There are people getting acquired by a bigger player. They're getting investment rounds happening. People are getting funded left, right, and center. People are just growing up exponentially. They're seeing only the good news. And everyone thinks that why can't I be an entrepreneur? Why can't I build a unicorn? There are companies within 5 to 7 years have multiple billion dollars of revenues coming in. Their valuations have shot up like anything. If they can do it, why can't we, right? And everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. Now, what happens in this case is they don't have the right framework. They just want to do it because everyone is doing. The reason to start is not right. As I mentioned earlier, you have a strong personal reason to solve a problem and be passionate about it. If your passion is just to be famous and make money, entrepreneurship is not meant for that. Entrepreneurship is meant for someone who's happy to slog 16 to 18 hours every day, is ready to just be as excited as he was yesterday despite facing hundreds of failures along his journey. That's what entrepreneurship is all about. But what happens is the young entrepreneurs aren't aware of what goes to be an entrepreneur. They don't know what's the hard work needed. What happens is they don't have the right guidance. And that's one of the precise reasons why uh, we need a startup ecosystem. The ecosystem not only provides with the right kind of mentoring, but at the same time, it also gives you assistance to the go-to market, maybe to reach out to the right set of people. How do you plan your strategy? How do you plan your revenue model? How do you go about implementing it? What happens if you reach on the top? How do you sustain being there? What if you're facing hurdles or roadblocks? How do you pass them? For all these things, you need a strong ecosystem to support you. That's one reason. Another reason is entrepreneurship is quite a lonely journey, right? So you need people around you who can actually assist you, who can actually guide you, who can actually be with you, who handhold you and be with you times when you have facing the most tough times, the most dark times. You need someone to be there just as a sounding board. And that's why a startup ecosystem is very, very important to support any entrepreneur. Let me see what other questions we have. So someone again asked me what takes you successful entrepreneur, which I've answered. Okay. Perfect. So what is the right time to raise funds? Is someone asked me. I feel when you start your business, you should initially bootstrap it. When I say bootstrap it, means using your own funds. You can take funds from your friends and families. You can take friends from people near and dear to you, but not the right time to have investor funding. Why do I say so? It's because what happens is if you take money too early, the chances are that you may end up diluting a lot of money at the initial stage, which is not a very healthy thing for a business in the long run. That's point number one. Point number two is you need to take money when you are about to scale up. See, if you need money just for running your business, just for a working capital, that's the worst money that you can ever ask for. It's like being on a ventilator, right? You are taking that money, you are on the ventilator, you're with the oxygen, and as long as the ventilator is there, you're surviving. The moment that ventilator is left, you stop getting oxygen, you are dead, right? And this is the investor who is helping with the ventilator. He's providing you the oxygen in the form of money. You are surviving. The moment he pulls off the money, you're gone. The trigger is pulled and you're dead, right? So that's not a nice situation to be in. I think you should ideally take money where you're not burning money, but when you're into a cash positive stage, you have done a small pilot, you have seen a successful at the smallest level. Now you need money to scale up, and you need money only for scaling up. And what happens here, you can have a better negotiating power with the investors. You know you're in the right direction, you just need money to scale up, and even investors supportive of you. Vis-a-vis, if you're in the other case, many a time you may not get the right investor who may take A, high equity stake, B, he may start running the show for you because he has put in money when you need the most, and he's put in a good amount of money because you need that amount of money and okay to give any equity. So he has a controlling stake in your company. He starts calling the shots, and you don't end up being a founder of your company but an employee of your own company. And then your progress is driven by what he decides is the right thing and not you. So this is one of the biggest disadvantages of raising money too early. and the right time is when you scale up is the right time to raise funds. So let me check what other questions do we have. Okay, what role should the government play in creating the startup ecosystem? So one thing the government can definitely do, and of course the government is doing, at least in India they are doing, since it's a global AMA, so different countries have different things, but I'll talk to you about India right now. So in India, the government is doing a lot of things to help entrepreneurs here. For instance, they have a 10,000 crore fund of funds where entrepreneurs can reach out to. They have a certification through which, if you apply and you get awarded with that certification, the Startup India certificate, you get up to 80% rebate on your patents or IPR. There are tax exemptions on your income, and so on and so forth. So government is doing a lot of things. They're helping in setting up incubation centers. They are helping in doing a lot of things which can help entrepreneurs. Is it really reaching out to the end entrepreneur? It's taking some time. The water just started trickling down, so people start seeing the benefits in due course. But yes, the government can do a lot of things. The government can support entrepreneurs by which they are doing. So, for example, in the compliance, if you goof up somewhere, since you're a young entrepreneur, they need to be little lenient vis-a-vis as compared to maybe another big companies where they're very harsh on making issues on compliances or missing out on compliances. I think with startups, they can be little lenient. That's one thing they can do. The second thing, what they've done is the rebate on the IPO, which is a very good thing. They should continue doing that. The third is they have started providing loans to startups uh, under different schemes. So I think that's again a good practice because startups need some funds to bootstrap or to begin their business. So that's another good thing. Maybe they can create more awareness about the ecosystem so that there are not people who come and do startups in different ways. So either with money or either with some schemes that they sell to startups. I think all these things should be stopped, and the government should have a strong vigilance on that and make sure that people are more and more aware of the startup ecosystem so that people take the right choices with the right ways. So I think these things are something the government should do, and some of them the Indian government is already doing, and they should continue doing that. And all over the world, wherever there is entrepreneurship or there is innovation, uh, I think in most of the countries there is entrepreneurship booming in, and so is innovation coming up. I think the government should come with these measures and help them. Okay. Uh, so someone said that in your biography blog, you discuss the importance of being humble and working closely with customers. Why is this so? Uh, See, being humble is a very powerful trait uh, for success. Arrogance will not take you. So I think arrogance can take you a little fast, but not very far. Whereas being humble will take you really very far because then you're grounded. You know the reality. You don't get affected by people rejecting you because if you have a strong ego, you're not being humble. You're being arrogant. Every time rejected, you're actually being breaking from inside, and but you're trying to show a strong face, and you're not thinking in the right direction. Your thought process gets affected. So I think being humble is one of the most powerful trait an entrepreneur needs to have. And while working closely with customers, this is very important because you cannot have an aerial view about your business. You need to have the ground reality. You need to actually get down on the floor, talk to your customers, dirty your hands, and understand in detail what do they want from you. Are they really happy? Are they really sad? So if you see in olden days, when the king, a good king, used to actually dress up like a normal person and enter into his kingdom and go and talk to people and understand what do they think about the king, what do they think about the kingdom, what do they think, how the rules and practices going on. And then he had actually an on-ground reality about what his people are thinking about him and what changes he needs to do to have a better place, have to have a better kingdom. I think that's very important for the entrepreneur as well. He should get on ground. He should talk to his customers. He should get his hand dirty, discuss with them, have a lot of conversations with them to understand where is he going wrong. If he's not going wrong, where all he can improve to give them a better experience. So I think working with your customers closely is of paramount importance for any and every entrepreneur. Because if you just have an aerial view, another problem that happens in this case is you don't know what's happening on the ground level, and your team or your employees who are actually giving you the feedback from the ground level may actually end up fooling you, keeping their interest in mind, and you really don't know what's happening. And when your company starts moving from the top to the down position, you will not even realize that because you are not connected with your customers. The more you're connected, the better you can give them an experience, and the faster you can have a growth for your company. I hope that answers the question. Someone asked me how to deal with failure. It's a mindset. Dealing with failure is a complete mindset. You just need to be prepared. So I'll give you one example. So when I had started off my entrepreneurship journey, for the first 9 months, so for the first 3 months, I was overexcited. I was on the top of the world. I was like, I'm starting something on my own. I'm just enjoying myself. But till I reached the ninth and 10th month, I started pinching me. I was like, boss, I was used to a corporate job where I used to get a handsome salary hitting my bank account at the end of the month. I was enjoying my life, a very cushy job. I was one of the youngest private bankers at that point of the time, dealing with the creme de la creme of the country. Had a superb job, superb lifestyle, good money hitting in. Now it's been 9 months. I'm not generating enough revenue for the company, and I'm not even close to where I thought my company should be. I was a little disheartened. At that point of time, I had to think of something. What can I do? So, of course, that was a kind of failure for me because I was not able to achieve it soon. But I realized later everything takes its time. And I'm happy it took its time because currently we are one of the largest ecosystem players in the country and now expanding globally as well. So it takes time, and we are pretty happy with the speed at which we are growing and the way things are happening. And we have just moved from that 0 to 1 and pretty happy with that success. But during that time, I was disheartened. I was uh, kind of demotivated. Then at that point of time, I thought I will create two filters for myself, which I now advise to a lot of startups also. And these two filters were, I will become a neutral party now. I will not get married to my idea saying that this is the only thing that I have. Let me become neutral and have two filters. The first one being time, the second one being money. So at that point of time, I decided a number. So that number, for example, is 100. I decided I'm going to spend $100 on this company, on my idea, and I decided time another 1 year. Now within this 1 year and $100, if I'm not even able to achieve 80% of the milestone I set for myself, I think I should take a step back and think that should I get back into a job or should I change the business plan that I am into. So once I had become a neutral party, I was assessing myself daily with that money. So the money was not 100 bucks, it was far, far larger. But still, just to give a example here, I taken that money as one filter and I taken time as the another. And I said within 1 year and with this stipulated amount of time and money, if I'm not even able to achieve 80%, I think I should think back. And that point of time, my speed increased. I started working because I knew I just have limited time and limited money, and I have to prove my mettle. And then there was no looking back, and we started growing rapidly and started increasing rapidly. And now whatever that time, there's no turning back. There's no looking back, and it's been a really fast roller coaster journey and full of high speed and a lot of enthusiasm. So I think it's all about the mindset. You need to control your mind. You need to train your mind to not get demotivated and just being persistent and work with it. Another entrepreneur is asking me, why do you think the competition is stiffer now than ever before? One of the main reasons is because things have changed. Uh, Today, money is easily available. A lot of people are fighting for the same thing. In fact, in a country like India, where 65% of the population is under the age of 35 with high disposable income, there are a lot of people fighting to get this pie. And the competition is increasing day by day because if you have one person entering in, there are 500 another entering into the same business because they want to fight for the same customer. Now the customer has got multiple choices. If not you, then someone else. One of the biggest mistakes that's happening by most of the companies is they are trying to lure the customers by offering them discounts. They are not creating brand loyalty. They are creating discount loyalty. to the customers. So to get that customer, you're offering him a discount, right? And to make him sustained with you, you're offering him more and more discounts. He sustains with you. Tomorrow, your funds are dried up, you shut down. He moves to somebody else. He's not unhappy. He's not dissatisfied. He moves to someone else. That someone else again offers him discounts. He takes a discount. There's a third person offering a better discount. He moves to that person. Now, what's happening in this entire process is you are spoiling the customer only for discount. If you had actually spent some time in creating that customer loyalty towards your brand rather than only discount, that customer would have not let you shut down. That customer would made sure that you are afloat, you are there making money, you are there helping his needs. All these, the customer would have made sure that you flourish and you move to the next level because he's attached to you. There is a loyalty attached to it. I think that's very important, which a lot of people are missing out. And hence the competition just increasing day by day because anyone can now enter in and they've understood what it takes to enter in and they're doing that. So the entry barriers are reducing and hence the competition becoming stiffer day by day. So that maybe answers your question that why the competition is getting stiffer day by day. Somebody else asks, you have won many awards. Do you think applying for pitching competitions and winning awards is something crucial to be a successful entrepreneur today? So the awards that I've won is none from pitching. So I've not pitched at any forum till date. In fact, I have 7 investors who have invested into my company, out of which the first 4 investors who have put in the money into the company, I never even asked them to put in the money. In fact, they were very excited about this entire business model of Chatur Ideas because we are helping so many entrepreneurs and able to scale them up. So in fact, when we started off our business, we had a vision to work or create around 250 successful startups in a span of 5 years. It's been close to 3.5 years and we've already crossed 950. So in fact, we have started beating our own expectations and able to do that, of course, with the support of the investors that we have on board, the mentors that we have on board, the well-wishers that we have in the ecosystem who keep helping us, who keep pushing us in the growth trajectory. What I'm trying to convey here is that we never went to any of the pitching events to get awards or funding. It came to us walking because our work spoke for itself. People knew what we were working, how we are contributing lives, and how we were working with n sections of the society, and that's why we got it. Again, all of the awards have never been applied for. Everyone, all of them have been nominated for. So most of these awards that I have received, I have been nominated by someone either in the government or in the industry or someone at the very top level who has nominated my name, and then they have checked on the parameters and then they have selected, and hence I've got the awards. Now, coming to your question where you say that as a startup, should you pitch at events and win awards? It may or may not have its significance. It depends, because what happens is you may receive awards, so that adds feather to your cap. But at the end of the day, when the investor is putting money, he will see what's your execution capability and what are you doing for your business. So if you're actually really running your business in the way that is going to scale up rapidly in terms of either revenue or value to your end customers, you will have the money on the table. But despite achieving a few awards, and you're still not able to prove that, the money is not on the table. But you'll only get the awards if you have those things in you. So if you have the metal in you, you'll have the awards, and hence it will be an easy flow of money coming in through the investors. If you don't have the metal, you may not get the awards, and still the investors may try to evaluate you but not invest. Having said that, if you're not aware of any of these forums where you can actually go and pitch yourself, but you have a really good product, you still have people coming towards you. So when people started coming to Chatur Ideas, we had 0 awards in our kitty. After they started coming in, people started recognizing us. We got a lot of fame. A lot of people came to know us. We started getting covered all across the world now in magazines, newspapers, radio, etc., etc. Started receiving awards, but it all came as a matter of time. So initially we worked and then we got awarded. So I think that answers your question. And so don't focus too much on applying for pitching events. Maybe reach the right investor whom you think can not only invest money but add value to your business, because that's very important. Money you can get it easily, but getting the right investor with the strategy and the money is quite difficult. So I think you should focus on that. Someone says that I have a pitch deck for the construction of a school. Which impact investors can I send this to? So I think you're not from India, you're from some another country. Uh, what I would suggest is, so there are quite a few impact investors. I wouldn't be sure if, first I would need to understand from you, Cornelis, that which country you belong to, A. B, if it's just a construction of a school, we need to understand what is the value addition or the value proposition that you have in the school. The third is, how much funds do you need? I think once I have the answers to these three questions, maybe I can connect you with the right set of investors, maybe in your country or in India, depending upon the fund requirement, your value proposition, and which country you are, and what's your actually long-term plan with this business. So I think only then I'll be able to add value. So even if you want to just put your question right now while I'm live on this channel, maybe I can answer your questions right away. I have someone else who's asking me, how did Chatur Ideas make revenue? So we have different revenue channels of making revenue. So the services that we just spoke about, so all of these end up as a revenue channel for us. So all the 5 services that I spoke about, they all add revenue to Chatur Ideas in some way or the other. What do you look into a startup when you invest into it? So as I mentioned, it's the entrepreneur at the end of the day that matters. What the entrepreneur is doing, his capability, execution capability is what matters. Okay, so someone asks, what do I feel about competition, and how does one include competition in a business plan, and why should one focus on that? So focusing on competition is very important. Why? Because you need to understand what your peers are doing. It's very important for you to know what your competitors are doing, because you know what happens many a time. So yeah, so there's the next question also, which says that how do investors perceive it? So you know what happens many a time, and this actually is what I was about to say. Someone has asked that, is that most of the time people say that I don't have any competition, and investors perceive that in a very negative way because of 2 reasons. One is they feel that you don't know how to use Google, or the other reason is they feel that in that case you are way too arrogant. You feel that no one can do what I'm thinking about doing it. So because every business has a direct or indirect competition, you pick up any business you can think of, I can show you the direct or an indirect competition to that. So never write you have no competition, because either you're bad in your Google skills or you are way too arrogant to think that you are making something. I think you should be very clear in mentioning that who are your competitors. So since it's a business plan, you should be very clear in understanding that who are your competition, who are your competitors, and how good are you from them in some parameters. So just write about your plus points where you're better than them, and at the same time be very humble enough to write down your negatives as well. So for instance, if your competitor is better than you in 5 parameters, please list that down, because the investor will figure it out himself. But if you're honest and upfront, you'll appreciate that fact that you're honest. And as I mentioned earlier, he's putting the money on you and not on your business only. So in that case, if you're honest, he would appreciate your honesty and would say that he's both enough, courageous enough, and honest enough to actually put down and say that these are my problem areas. This is where I am lacking uh, in comparison to my competitor. And same time, you give a solution, how you're trying to make sure to bridge that gap. So wherever your competitor is better than you, how will you bridge that gap and become better than a competitor, or at least match up to him, right? So please be very transparent about that as well in your business plan, how you're going to do that. Yeah. Okay, so I think there are no more questions on the deck. Uh, I think I can wait for another couple of minutes until if you have some questions, please shoot it, or else then I think we can end this session. Okay, so at what stage of your business can you expect your cost to increase exponentially, such as legal, marketing, staff, etc.? Uh, so at the initial level, of course, you would not have these costs coming in. It's at the time of scaling up. So when you're scaling up your business, when you're scaling up your venture, at that point of time, your legal, marketing, etc. costs will start shooting. So initially, I think you can be quite humble or quite frugal with your these expenses. But the moment you start decide to scale up in multiple cities or multiple locations or across multiple clientele, at that point of time, your cost will start shooting up, and at that point of time, you need to manage these costs pretty well. I think that was your question. So I think since there aren't any more questions, we can call up this session. But I would like to thank everyone for being on the session. I would like to thank Ye community for inviting me over to address across the globe with the questions that they had. Uh, I'm really thankful to each one of you for all the wonderful questions that you all have asked. It was very nice hosting this. Okay, so there's another question somebody has asked, which says that can you talk more about growth hacking? It is a big buzzword, right? Is it necessary? Uh, I think growth hacking is necessary. It is a big buzzword, but it is very important. And why it's important is because if you need to beat your competition, you need to have growth hacks in order. You need to have really good growth hacks which can actually help you to scale up your business. Because many a time what happens is everyone's doing the same techniques to run their business. You're in the same business, same industry, same clientele. And if you all make the same efforts to reach out to them, I don't think that's going to create a difference. That's going to create the edge for you. I think what's important is you need to create an unfair advantage for yourself. And when I say an unfair advantage, it's very important to create an entry barrier for your competition. You need to think of something that is only unique to you. It can be the technology, it can either be the IPR, it can be the database, it can be a network, it can be anything that is privy to you, or it is uh, your rights, your IP rights, which is difficult for anyone else entering the market to copy. So creating unfair advantage is very important. What are some of the growth hacks that you can do? So some of one of so it depends on which industry you are. So it's a very abstract question. So I'll try to cover as many topics I can into this. So for instance, if you are into an industry where the brand value sells, right? Try building a brand value. So for example, if you look at Patanjali, today Baba Ramdev has created his individual brand value for which today Patanjali, and he started leveraging his individual brand equity for which where Patanjali is today, right? Steve Jobs has leveraged his personal brand equity to where Apple is today, right? Because what also happens is when you personify your product, when you personify your company, people start connecting with you. For example, in India, if you look at BJP, today Narendra Modi has so even if you look at the slogan, it says "Abki Bar Modi Sarkar." So he's tried to personify BJP as one person, just Mr. Narendra Modi. Now, what's happening in this is when you personify, people connect with you. Till now, people were just connected with an entity, which could be BJP maybe, but now they connect with a person, they connect with an individual. So the connection increases exponentially. when you build a brand equity, you can leverage that for the efficiency or the merits of your company or your organization. So one of the fastest growth hacks is build a brand equity and then let the benefits fall to the company. Another thing is to start writing, start blogging, because that starts creating a lot of impact. People start to understand your views. They start to know what you are actually getting into. That's another thing. Third thing is start networking. So again, I've taken the industry where you need to create a lot of brand value. So start networking, because people say there's no networking, there is no working, right? So start networking with the right set of people. Start being noticed. I think that's very important for the brand value. So that can be one of the fastest growth hacks. When you're into product, where the brand is not what a product needs to sell. For example, someone comes to a website, right? So make sure that the website is very fast to get loaded. It need not be uh, as fast as you open and every page opens in a fraction of a second, but at least not beyond a couple of seconds. People should not get loaded on a page, because people get turned off if it takes a lot of time to get loaded, right? So when people are coming to a website, make it colorful, make it bright, let the essence be very short and crisp. Second, make it in the form of a story. People love stories. So let it be the story, people want to read it. Third, use good color combinations. People like to see nice colors and want to be with it. Fourth, ask a question. People like to play with the gray cells. So if you ask them a very simple question, and if you ask this question, we might end up giving you a freebie, or you can enter into a next zone. People, because a simple question, people love to prove that they are right, and they would answer that question and enter it. That's another growth hack you can do. The fifth one is when people are leaving a website and you know they're about to leave, give a pop-up window which says that before you leave, do you want to check this out where I can offer you something else as a discount or as a freebie? That will again make people to again hold back and consider you for a second time before they actually check out, right? So I think there are some of the growth hacks you can do for a product where brand is not needed. So I think I've tried covering up where you need to sell as a brand or as a product. So there are different growth hacks you can do. If there's something specific that you have in your mind in the growth hack question, please be specific about it. I would love to answer. There is another question that someone asks who says that, was there a breakthrough moment when all your work, which previously seemed to not pay off, began to start paying off? Something like reaching a tipping point. Uh, so I think I talked about it. So when I started this venture of mine, things weren't going well for me, right? For the first 9 months. At that point of time, I actually felt it was more like a failure for me, right? And things were just not working. Everything that I tried. So actually, if I see in the hindsight, they were working, but I couldn't see the output. It's like when you plant a mango tree, it takes around 8 years to actually start giving the fruits, right? So similar thing was happening. Uh, 9 months had passed. It was actually working. I was building my base way too strong. The roots were getting pretty strong, but I couldn't see that because nothing was in front of my eyes. So I thought that, am I doing the right thing? Am I in the right direction? And kind of for me at that time, it was a failure because I couldn't see the result. So I'm more like a result oriented person. I need to see results. I need to see numbers. I need to see things quantified. And since I couldn't see it, I wasn't pretty happy with myself. And I was like, maybe it's not happening. And that is a point when I took a back seat and I said that, I took a step back, sorry. And I said that, why don't I create some filters which make sure that I have to do it or else I need to rethink. And those two filters about time and money that I mentioned earlier really worked in my favor. Because then I was neutral, I was slogging myself out, but I was enjoying every day of it because I know where I'm heading to. I know how I'm heading to, and I know what is at stake until how long it is at stake. So everything was pretty clear. I had to just keep running, keep being perseverant. And once I did that, uh, it's fun to enjoy the success when there are dark days. If there aren't dark days, the success is not really sweet. You need to have dark days to enjoy the success, and I'm pretty happy, content that I had those tough days. And of course, every day is a challenge. So I don't say that things are pretty simple now. One needs to still be working, need to be on their toes, but now you enjoy the process. You know what's happening with you daily. You know what's going in, what's coming out. So I feel that's very important for every entrepreneur. and that's what happened with me. So the question was related to me. So yeah, so that's what happened, and how did I that point of time? How did I feel, and how did I manage it? So I think we are done with all the questions, and I don't see any questions coming in more. So I would like to sign off now, and thank you once again, everyone, for asking your questions. I thank the entire EA community all across the globe for coming in and asking questions. I thank the Chatur community also for asking your questions as well. So thank you, everyone. It's a lovely session. Nice interacting with you. Thank you.